Thank you for turning to page 121. Today we're going to take a look at a topic that I'm sure is really exciting for all role players and action adventurers, and that's ship's maintenance. Yeah, I know, but did you know ship's maintenance can be your gateway to adventure? Well, not really, but I'm going to picture it that way anyway. So today we're going to take a look at the maintenance of your ship and ways that can drive your story and maybe lead to an adventure or two. We're going to be taking the information for the ship maintenance out of the 2022 Core Rulebook Update. I love this book. This is my go-to for anything current traveler. So we're going to take a look at ship's maintenance, how you can wrap it into your story, and how you can make it interesting and exciting, just not something that's a bill that needs to be paid at the end of the month. I also want to remind everybody that I am doing a subscription drive. As of the filming of this video, just short of 1,500 subscribers, still growing the channel. Still trying to get the views up, get things more lively around here. So if you are on the fence, over half my views are coming from non-subscribers. Come on in, we talk about games here a lot. Also, Patreon going, I'm trying to upgrade my equipment. So some help to the Patreon would be wonderful. And that's all for the commercial. Today we're going to take a look at ship's maintenance in Traveler on page 121. All right, here we go. Working out of the Traveler Core Rulebook Update 2022. I've used this book a lot on my channel, and there's a good reason for it. It's the current information on Traveler, and although I love the old stuff and I read it all the time, this at least is the brand new stuff. So this is what's currently happening. Traveler is the only game I'm playing right now that is actually still a live game. Arguably Battletech, but I don't play Battletech as much as I used to. So for today, we're going to take a look on page 153, running costs and maintenance. So I'm going to go into a little bit of the dollars here of operating a starship, but I'm not going to dwell on that because I want to talk more about how it's going to drive the story. So running costs and maintenance, you have a maintenance period. Every maintenance period is described as being every 4 weeks. And every 4 weeks is one maintenance period, and that's when you owe your mortgage payment on your ship and your maintenance costs. The mortgage payment I'm not going to go into too much today because that's really going to depend on how your character's mustered out, what kind of cash they had, did something happen in an adventure where they got a portion of a ship or an entire ship. So I'm not going to dwell too much on the mortgage. I'm going to worry more about running costs and maintenance. So the running cost is basically just what it takes to keep the ship up and running as far as food, water, any kind of hydroponics, switches, light bulbs, that kind of thing. So what they describe here is every stateroom is 1,000 credits a month for maintenance, and each person aboard is 1,000 credits a month in maintenance. So basically, consumables. If you're eating and drinking aboard the ship, it's going to cost a fair amount of money because you always have to have the stuff on board to do it. I think 1,000 a month per person and 1,000 per stateroom is a little stiff, but for right now, for today, we're going to go with it. I find it kind of interesting that Traveler is about finance and commerce. That's primarily what the game was when it started. Years and years ago, under my first Traveler GM, we ran a very fun campaign where it was essentially Merchant Prince, the old supplement, but it was our version of it. It was a very watered-down, very lighter version of Merchant Prince. And the idea was that we were aboard a free trader, and we were striving to make ends meet month after month. It was a bookkeeping campaign, and this is the early 80s, so it was well before spreadsheets were easily made and things like that. But we had to track all of our costs and maintenance, and if we took any damage and things like that. And it was a very combat-light campaign, which especially in the early 80s was very rare for our group. But we had the right people, and it was myself, the GM, and 1 to 2 others, depending on who could make it that month, or that week rather. And we played this for a few months, and it was a lot of fun. Very combat light, very story heavy in a time when things were not story heavy. And the GM did a really nice job of keeping the story moving and making maintenance and ship's costs and something we cared about. So that is one way to go with the campaign, where you have a group of people that just want to get together and do the finances of it and make ends meet. It's not a campaign I would try with my current group. My current group is a little combat heavy, so I don't think I'd get very far in saying, hey guys, we're going to do nothing but crunch numbers all game. That being said, I still weave in maintenance and things like that just as part of their overhead. So now we're going to take a look at your monthly maintenance, your repair costs and maintenance for just your ordinary ship's use, which equals 0.1% of the total purchase price of the ship per year. For purposes of this discussion, I've gone ahead and I've bookmarked a Type A free trader. Gotta love the old Type A. So for a Type A to be properly crewed, you need 5 people. So that would be 5,000 credits just to keep those guys fed and housed aboard your ship. And then for whatever your betting is, you're going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 staterooms, and then some berths up there. So another 10, so almost 10,000 a month just on maintenance of the actual portions of the ship the crew lives in. And then nicely under these designs, we have the maintenance cost, $3,861 per month. Now, I think 10,000 just for food and water aboard the ship is stiff per month. I'm going to stay with 1,000 per person, which is 5,000, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the 1,000 per stateroom. So 5,000 and 5,000 is 10,000 for food and for the staterooms themselves. Again, I think that's a little high because I think some of the stateroom maintenance should be rolled into the maintenance cost. Now, again, I'm saying the stateroom is you're replacing a mattress, you're replacing a blanket, you're replacing a light switch. But to my mind, a lot of that's maintenance. So I'm conflicted as a traveler GM as to how much to charge in that regard. So generally what I'm going to probably end up doing from this point forward is just going to be 1,000 per head per month. So if I have 5 people crewing the ship, it's going to be 5,000 credits to maintain their daily food, their dishes, things like that. Also their daily stuff like bread, pillows, blankets, mattresses. So I'm not going to get too nuts with charging per stateroom. Now, the other thing that confused me a little bit when I read that in the traveler book is they say per stateroom. I wasn't sure if they meant per guest stateroom or per stateroom aboard your ship. So again, that's a cost I'm going to pull out if it's just people who are working the ship who are staying in rooms. I'm going to pull out the cost of the stateroom and I'm going to make that part of the just the ordinary ship's maintenance. I'm only going to charge the 1,000 credits per head for food and other consumables. So there we have it. So if I did that and I have 5 people crewing the ship, that's 5,000 plus 3,861. I'm at 8,861 per month for my running costs. That does not count fuel. If I'm buying my fuel, I can pay 500 credits per ton for refined fuel or 100 credits per ton for unrefined. I recommend, by the way, a fuel purifier at all times, so you can wilderness refuel at need or buy the cheaper fuel at a some kind of maintenance area. So there you have it, the actual running costs. I'm going to touch on one other running cost, which is the Scout Courier. The current campaign I'm running, one of the players did get access to a Scout Courier as his mustering out benefit. He was, so as far as I do it in my travel universe, I charge the 1,000 per crew. In this case, it's a crew of 3, pilot, astrogator, and engineer. But there is a 4th member of the party. There are 4 players. So I'm charging 4,000 per month for their consumables. And then the maintenance cost of 3,078 per month. As long as they go to a base that has a scout base and has decent maintenance facilities, and as long as the wear and tear on the ship is reasonable and customary, in other words, they haven't been beating the heck out of this thing, I let the scout service cover all of the maintenance. It saves the players on money, but you also have to remember a scout is not a big vessel to haul cargo in. You can't make a ton of money on a scout vessel. So because it's still actually in extended service for the scout service, I have the scout service actually pay for ordinary maintenance. They get into trouble, they abuse the ship, or if they get fired on by a pirate and there's actual damage, then we may talk about it. But actually, if it's something they couldn't avoid, like a pirate they were running from that damaged the ship, I will probably still have the scout service take care of that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to build in some role-playing on that as far as who's running the scout base, and maybe there's a past history with the scout that's running the ship who's retired. Maybe they have a little animosity, so maybe this guy's going to make life miserable. That's really part of your story. That segues nicely into having maintenance become a driver for your story. Everybody has seen Phantom Menace from 1999, Star Wars Episode 1. Oh my gosh, okay, I'm not here to discuss the merits of that film. I am here to discuss how maintenance needs change the fate of the entire galaxy. Because Qui-Gon's ship needed a drive motivator, whatever the heck it was. I forget what part they were looking for, what the MacGuffin was. They ended up landing on Tatooine. They ended up going into Watto's shop, and Qui-Gon ended up meeting Anakin Skywalker. Anakin Skywalker, oh, spoiler alert, ready? Goes on to become Darth Vader. That chance meeting between Qui-Gon and Anakin comes about because the ship needed maintenance. So there's a great example in my mind of some time when one thing led to another, and changed the shape of the entire galaxy. I realize that that's not the best film, folks. I know that. I'm just using it as an example. Star Trek, in a questionable episode called Mudd's Women, and I say questionable because in the story, the Enterprise desperately needs dilithium crystals to keep the engines running, and then dilithium miners on a whim decide, no, we're not going to give them to you, even though you're going to pay fair market value, and we're under lawful obligation to go ahead and give it to you so your ship doesn't get destroyed. We're not going to give it to you because we want to hang out with our girlfriends. Well, I've thought of a million ways around that particular scenario where James T. Kirk in that scenario, but be that as it may, it's another time where you needed something for maintenance for the ship, and that drove the story. So one of the ways I do that with Traveler is simply something broke. You're treating the ship as it should, you're doing your regular maintenances, and something just flat breaks on the ship. You manage to limp into a starport, and now it's going to be 200,000 credit repair, and it's going to take you 3 weeks. Your ship is down, not making money. The 200,000 is pretty much going to wipe you out. How do you do that? How do you drive that story? What do the players do to fill the time? Do they look at illicit goods? Do they hire out as bodyguards? Do they crew another vessel for a few weeks until their vessel's ready? A lot of different ways you can do it. And that, again, would be going back more toward the Type A free trader than anything else. If you're running a military campaign, maintenance can become a big deal because you might have to run the ship harder than it's designed to be. Captain, the engines can't take it. And now you've damaged something, and now you've got to not only get the ship into a safe port, you've got to explain to the powers that be how you broke their toy. So there's a lot of ways you can use maintenance as your story arc. I'm going to complain a little bit more about maintenance being a every once a month thing. If you have a skilled engineer on board who is maintaining the ship exactly as it should be, and to my mind, it should need to go in like clockwork every 4 weeks. I realize that every 4 weeks is maintenance by the book, and I realize that very few people do things that way, but it is a way for your travelers to cut costs. If they're going in for maintenance 12 times a year, that runs into some serious bank. So maybe instead of going 12 times a year, or actually it'd be 13 times a year, my apologies, it'd be 13 times a year every 28 days. Maybe they want to stretch out that by a week or so and pick up 2 or 3 maintenance periods value, but just by stretching things out. With a skilled engineer, I would not apply many negative modifiers to a ship that decided to run that way, provided that the engineer and the other members of the crew were telling me how they were keeping the ship running in good trim. So that's another way that your players can cut costs a little bit. If 1,000 a month is a little stiff for your consumables, go ahead and drop it down to 800 a month or 700 a month. Also depends on are there non-human type characters on board? Do you have an Aslan? So do you need a supply of fresh raw meat? That can run into some serious dollars depending on where you are. So you want to take a look at that as the GM, and you want to kind of play with it a little bit and stretch your imagination a little bit. Don't just make it a cut and dried, bills are due, write the check, bills are due, write the check. To my mind, that gets to be very stale very quickly. I do the running costs. In the campaign I'm running, I do the running costs for the consumables that the players are going through. So I am charging 1,000 credits per head per month. And that there's no real way around that unless you go into some kind of rationing situation, something like that. Again, as a GM, you can cut it down to 800 a month or 700 a month if you feel 1,000 is a little high. My guys, they're going to live high on the hog. There's absolutely no way they're scrimping. I'm charging the full $1,000. So to run the ship for what they have to pay is $4,000 per month, and then any kind of dock fees and things like that. Once you get into dock fees, you start getting into another area where the ship can quickly rack up some credits being expended. We're not going to go too much into dock fees in this one because that's a kind of a nebulous thing in Traveler. It changes so much from port to port. And again, for a scout courier going to a scout base, there's no dock fee. It's part of the active service. The book says it's part of the active service. To my mind, there's no reason they'd be charged dock fees. There'd be no reason they'd be charged ordinary maintenance fees. Consumables, yes, that's on the people operating the ship. Because the ship is on extended use, the scout service isn't going to supply everything. So that's my thought on ship's maintenance. I recommend it as an integral part of your Traveler campaign. A great way to drive your story. A great way to change the galaxy if you're in Phantom Menace. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed what you heard and saw. If you did, please like and subscribe. Leave some comments below. And I'll see you next time on page 121.